So this shape is relatively simple. However, we do want to give ourselves a little bit of trouble to solve. So first things first is I'm going to slice off the top, and we're also going to slice off the bottom. And from here, we'll just switch over to Ngun and perform a cut like so. But that cut isn't trouble enough. We want to make it even more difficult. So we want to press B and then roll the wheel a little bit. We see that we have about 4 segments. That'll do as far as solving goes. I'm always thinking about solving whenever it comes to looking at the geometry. So for this to really pop into render, it's going to need a bevel. But if we press Alt V, we can see that we have some flows that are running counter to each other. So getting them to really transition to each other is going to be a bit of an art, unless we were to either transfer normals or really work the topology. And in this case, I'll opt for working the topology. Let's just go under operations and we'll hit it with a smart apply. And I'm just going to control click loops all the way around until I'm back. And the first thing we want to do is quarantine this area and protect it. So I'm going to shift click mark, which will put me in the select tool. And if we press B, we could actually bevel this edge. And we wouldn't do the same thing with this area. However, we want to look at the geometry and make sure there's not any like super near misses, and there are. So it's, do we want to sacrifice topological integrity in order to get rid of these near misses? I guess so. So sometimes in these cases, I experiment with different strategies for dealing with geometry. But in this case, we'll settle for these near misses. But for this one, we'll hand this one off to a different vertex just to ensure that nothing happens with the topology. We'll select this edge and control click to this edge. And I just got to remind users that, you know, whenever I'm in the heat of working, this process happens in like 30 seconds. So, you know, it may seem slow in videos, but it really isn't in my actual life. I get in and just handle these things. So I could have auto verti mergy. God, I'm having a stroke today, you guys. But if I have auto vert merging on, then we don't have to actually go through and manually merge these things. But we do see that there are some skews indicating that there could have been some handoffs chosen in advance that probably would have better held this surface. However, every time I solve this geometry, I feel like I learned something new about just how fickle geometry is as far as it being held together and how little is actually required to convey a surface. But you know, that's a talk for another video. So you might have also noticed that I did this partially. That's because I could press Alt X, scroll to something like symmetry, shift click on X to keep mirror, and then click on Y to do Y and be done with Y. So if we press Alt V and we get out of our wireframe, we see that it looks like we did nothing at all. However, now we can control click bevel and we can just really add a bevel there and the surface will hold together. So, you know, you're probably thinking, wow, that's cool, but you know, could you do it twice? Sure, I gotta. Let's get in here, Q, smart apply, and let's evaluate our crash scene. So first thing is we want to keep all this. There's a decimate modifier involved in the construction of this, so that's why everything's cleaned up like this. And we'll just shift click mark. We're already in select tool. If you're in merge under M, you can just press S and jump back over to select, and we'll just press B. You know, lately we've been focusing a lot on merge, but select is still great. You know, these tools are so theoretical right now, but one day they will approach their final versions. Like even now we're discussing the next level of the Topo tool of kind of what select tool is to become. But a degree of planning is preferred. It saves pain on the coding room floor. So let's just select this edge, control select this other edge, and we have our area set up. We'll shift click mark and we'll press B in order to protect our parameter. And we see that the further we go, the more skewed our parameter gets, and that there are some realignments. I'm telling you, every time I look at this, I just see automatic solutions that are handling these things where, you know, a system would exist that would basically read these edges skewing and automatically jump them over to the next nearest junction. Because in the end, all we care about is this perimeter. We could delete all of this geometry and reconstruct everything in between with really efficient quad geometry if needed. But for the most part, if you can protect the perimeter, then you can easily add a bevel to these things, even though they're like curvy shapes on curvy shapes, and get a nice result. I mean, I don't even know if I put a weighted normal on this shape. That's how easy the process was. So let's just jump over to our render now. And with this very large bevel happening and this distinct shape change, we now have a much nicer result. So while this isn't a cue box, we'll save this as a cylinoid. Maybe not a let's go with a cylindrical, because a cylinoid is indicative of a particular caliber of workflow. So we're not even getting all mod crazy today. Really, we're just in here talking about dice, but I wanted to end the result talking about some of the other tools connected to the workflow, and also, you know, dice in a more practical setting and getting a more finalized result. But with that, we can begin moving on to the next part.